Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. All right, we're here. Welcome, everybody, to Modulator Bay. Another episode, episode 8 this time around. Oh, I might have named it 7 on accident, but I don't think so. We'll see. And, so yeah, we're just gonna get on with the things of the day for me and the things of the day for Haze. And we kind of started out. We got all these background noises going on still, this ambience thing. It might be cool, but we'll turn it off for now. Yeah, so we were going to get talking about pedals and stuff because you had just ordered another one or just.
When will it ever end?
When will it ever end? Yeah. Well, I just got started on thinking about pedals more and stuff because they were down on my priority list. But it's always kind of like kept me from doing all these things with my mono station that I wanted to. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So
yeah.
if you don't mind, talk about the effects in the mono station. Does that have effects? I haven't
yeah.
looked into it.
And
okay.
so and this will go into like the pedal that we were just looking at, the bonsai. But the thing about the mono station is it has 3 different types of distortion. And you can.
And I presume that they're analog.
Yeah, 3 different types of analog distortion, and they're just all on there, and it's just you pick the 1, 2, or 3 with a button, and then turn the knob for how much of each.
And they just call it number 1, number 2, and number 3.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I'll have to look into which ones they exactly are, but one's a more rough destruction, and then one's kind of in between, and then one's a more gentle, like smooth.
Okay, that sounds like going
saturation.
Like in the same order, like sounds like a fuzz, like a distortion, and then an overdrive.
Yeah, it's probably more like that. Yeah.
And yeah, that pretty much sums up what those 3 are like. You know, overdrive generally is very soft. Distortion is a bit harder, and then fuzz is just outright, destruction.
Yeah, and it has an external in, so I can always use that, go through I believe it's the filter and the distortion that goes through out to the external on the mono station.
Gotcha.
When you put the external in, it'll go through both of those.
It'd be interesting if you could swap the order of the effect and the filter.
No, that would be cool, but yeah.
That's where, of course, modular, gives you always that advantage of being able to always change the route.
Right, and I was specifically looking for that when looking for my next reverb that I just got, the Tip Top Zverb. What I was looking at before that was something that hasn't come out yet, and that's by Qubit. Qubit makes a lot of modules, and they actually have been making modules that are kind of along the same vein as the Mutable Instruments ones, only with their own flavor and their own sort of UI way of tweaking it. Like they have a physical modeling one called Surface that is much like Rings in philosophy, but it's totally different in use, I guess, in the way that you'd use it. And
well, when you say physical modeling, what are they modeling?
Like strings and tubes and hitting things with mallets, or hitting wood, or hitting metal, or. Okay,
so that's like an oscillator then.
Yeah, but actually, resonator, as a resonator that makes that happen.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. So that's
more than just the car, not necessarily car plus strong, but actually using resonators. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Because things ring out in a more sort of natural way, like you're in the real world or something.
And there is one jam that I had. I don't know that I'll ever be able to recreate this again, because I don't really write down my recipes that I'm going along, but I was able to take like the TD3, and in this particular case I would just say like any sort of TB303 kind of sound, and I can't remember if I was using the square or the sawtooth, but because of the kind of distortion that I was adding to it and some of the delay and the reverb, it sounded like a saxophone. It really
Uh-huh.
does. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I can go back and extract that little clip, and I've played it for a few people, and they actually kind of thought that I sampled a saxophone.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was off on a tangent though. I guess long story short with Qubit is that um, they've made these new modules. One of them was the Qubit Aurora, would be the reverb that they just come out with, and they'd shown it off in a previous like NAMM or something, and shown that it had the reverb knob on it, and I mean not reverb, filter knob on it.
Oh,
So it has the
yeah, okay.
filter after, and it's after the reverb.
That's
And I
interesting.
was like, okay, yeah, a filter after it, so you can really just trim your effect how you want it that way, especially if it's a reverb and it's like just there's so many times where it's always just up a little too high, just like a and you want to just take off that highest little bit and make it a little bit nicer or warmer.
Well, this is
And
why I
so
always
so
recommend
that
a
became
good
this thing
mixer.
like, oh yeah, that's why I want it. But
And
then
like
it,
we,
it never came out, so I got the tip top and it does the same thing. It has the filter after the effect.
oh, it was never released.
Not yet. It's gonna
Not yet.
be.
Okay.
They're
Okay. Good.
releasing them slowly, but they've been delayed because of COVID.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I think you told me that before, right?
Um,
But
well,
don't.
maybe,
It
probably
doesn't
because
matter.
I was really last year throughout the summer I was like sure I was gonna get the Qubit Aurora, and then I saw the Tip Top Z-Verb, and then I just decided not to wait.
Yeah, that's happened to me before, and yeah, sometimes like waiting on something causes you to just buy a whole bunch of more stuff. Unfortunately.
Uh-huh. But I've looked at a lot of effects units, multi effects units, rack effects units, and gone into the pedal thing because obviously I already knew that the Big Sky was one that a big one that people used for synths as well, and because it's got all sorts of cool
That's
stuff
a
on
great
it.
pedal. I haven't bought it because I mean it's hard to find for under $400.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. It's like buying a synth.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guarantee you though it's going to be well worth it. The thing is, like with a pedal like that, you really want to utilize every ounce of it, and you want to probably utilize the MIDI in, and that's just going to help you get like synchronized clock for the delay.
exactly.
But that's really nice though, and of course some of the reverb, some of the maybe some of the shimmering as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and I don't need that on the tip top because it's CV. I mean, it's not MIDI, but I've got the CV in for the sync, so it can
Yeah.
sync the delays. That's great.
Um, so yeah, so this pedal that you wanted to buy, I noticed it's actually a really cool thing. It's delay and reverb, and it looks like it's going delay into reverb, to be specific.
Yeah, yeah, and it seems like, well, I mean, they're just offering it for so cheap. It seems like, okay, it's one of those kind of like JHS where they've got the simple design. They're just going to keep on replicating it, and and it seems like a really simple design on the outside too. It's just everything you want to just reach for, and you already know about this is how I want my delay, and this is how I want my reverb.
One thing I have no idea about that pedal. It's the first time I've ever seen it. Um, you might want to look into some of the specifications. Like usually a pedal like that, it's probably going to be okay to use with synthesizers and with Eurorack. Um,
Hmm.
but sometimes, I have a pedal back here behind me, and it's a pedal that I love. It's called the Avalanche Run, and it's made
Right.
by Earthquaker Devices.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm running the Lyra 8 into the Acid Box, the Erica Synths Acid Box. And the Erica Synths, of course, naturally, I mean, they make stuff not only for synthesizers, but they make it for Eurorack.
Yeah.
And I've had no trouble whatsoever with slamming the Erica Synths with the output coming out of the Lyra 8. The Lyra 8, especially this one, can get like pretty gnarly
Hmm.
and a lot of transients, just a lot of just like just really shaking the waveforms.
So yeah, but you decided for that as a pair, even though it seems to me like the acid box is pretty gnarly too.
Well, what's great
Right.
about the Acid Box is that it's a filter, and it's a filter
Okay.
with an
Yeah.
LFO, and that's what the Lyra 8 does not have,
Uh huh.
is a filter. So it's really great for that. Now, what I'm doing is I'm running that now directly because I don't have any more auxiliary outs coming out of my mixer. So I figured, okay, I'll take this directly into the Avalanche Run, so I can add, reverb and delay. The delay, it just, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Lyra 8, really, because the Lyra 8 already has its own delay, which is a different kind of delay. And but just to suffice to say, the Avalanche Run is not working out for what I have coming out of the Lyra 8 or the Acid Box. It's just too heavy. What I can do is I can run a compressor in front of it, and it would be okay.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to try that next. I have the ability to throw another a guitar pedal in here as a compressor, and throw another 9-volt power supply on it. No problem for that. And that probably is going to fix the problem pretty well. But what I'm getting at is that that's not a really good pedal for that application. That pedal is really more designed for a guitar pedal. For a guitar.
Yeah, and see, it's just really hard for me to tell when shopping for pedals because they all have guitar people playing guitars through them.
Right.
I can't even tell what the pedal does because I'm not a guitar person, because I don't have that experience with what it sound. I can sort of sound it when they do the dry wet test. Sure, I can still then sort of understand it, but then I still don't know what it's going to sound like on a square wave or a sawtooth wave.
Yeah, exactly. For the most part, it's pretty cookie cutter. A delay is just going to do, it's going to add an echo, and what you're looking at is that with analog delays, you've got a shorter amount of delay time. Josh at JHS Pedals was able to get, I think, like a 2-second analog delay time on his Panther delay pedals.
That's long.
And that's a lot, he did a whole lot to make that happen. I can't remember who it was. I think there's like a 16-second digital delay though from an Electro Harmonics pedal. And yeah, that's crazy. That gets into because they could. And that gets in, that pedal is actually used as a looper though because of that. I can't remember which one it is.
Wait for it.
Yeah, wait for it. Wait for it. And so that's what digital is going to buy you for the most part. It's going to get you not only longer delay times, but cool modulation effects. Cattle and Bread makes some great delay pedals. They make the Add an Echo, which is a Telray oil can emulator. It does a pretty good job of sounding like the oil can. It gets a little warbly in there. There's the Bell Epoch, which is the EP3 tape. Yeah, the Epoch was a tape delay, and that's the one that Jimmy Page used a lot with his bow trick. And what's really interesting is that's a huge device too. It's a big honking device, and a lot of guitar players just used it for its preamp, which I want to talk about it. Preamps and EQs, and it's very important to discuss that. I really should just go ahead and take it aside and talk about that now.
Yeah.
Because anybody can go and look at Cattle and Bread's catalog. But really what you're going to find with what most guitar pedals really are is their preamps and their EQs, high, mids, and lows, and gain and boost. And we don't need that as keyboard players, as in Eurorack. If anything, we need attenuators. So distortions, what I found is of course the TB303s work great with distortions. The Volca bass is okay, but doesn't really need it. But what's really cool is the Volca FM. So like FM synthesis, when you distort those signals, you can get some really nice effects, I think. And of course, drum machines, they sound really good through compressors and distortions. But like a lot of like your pads and things like that, if you want to experiment, you can get some neat stuff and maybe sample that, but you really want to kind of focus. As an advice to people, looking into buying distortions, overdrives, and fuzzes. You really want to be going for that sound like that. That's what you get. Like a lot of if you want to go for that acid techno type kind of edge, the Trent Reznor type kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Otherwise,
hey Yankee.
Hello.
Nice to see you here. Yeah, so she'd be here today, I think, except for my fault, pretty much, that I kind of short notice for letting her set up and get ready and stuff, and had some things to do today.
Hey, join on in if
I'm glad
you
you're
still
here.
Can, if that's okay. But can I show you this pedal? Let me switch back over. I want to be able to see the chat too. This is kind of an expensive pedal, but this is a stereo ensemble that does vibrato, and this is really good for synthesizers. It's got. I'm a little concerned about the stereo end. I'm not sure that it's true stereo. I kind of was reading a little bit behind it, so I'm not going to say that it's stereo just yet, but it's definitely stereo out, and this thing sounds luscious.
Yeah, it's ensemble is like chorus, right?
Okay, yes. Ensemble is like a number of different modulations, like taking the signal and modulating them in the left and the right separately. So it's a bit more than chorus. It's a bit more than vibrato. It's a little different. And hey, I'm still learning this stuff too, so I kind of forget exactly what the details are. You can go to Wikipedia, actually, and I mean, all this stuff is in Wikipedia and pretty well described.
Okay.
There is one more pedal I want to show you while I can. I might even be able to demonstrate it. I don't know. We'll see. This is the Electro Harmonics Epitome. Yeah.
Oh, that's the best. I've looked at that so many times on Reverb.
Yeah, me too. I've been staring at this for the longest time. Like brand new, it's like $400. So I've been like trying to find a really nice one. And a lot of the ones that I find, you know, when you're looking for guitar pedals, and they're really expensive, and you look for the used ones, which is what I do. It's kind of hard to find good-looking ones that are not beat up. You know, because like barbarians. I'm sorry, did I call them barbarians? I'm sorry, guitar players. They stomp on these things when they're on the ground, just with no concern whatsoever.
Yeah. I'm
joking, of course, but yeah, a lot of the ones that I looked at were really scratched up. But what this is, and I guess now is a good time to talk about it. I said this before: the topology of a pedal, it goes from right to left.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the first thing that, you know, like sometimes they go left to right, but most of them go right to left. And
yeah, that's wrong. No, I'm just joking.
No, well, I mean, the guitar pedal that I built, I did mine backwards. I did the knobs backwards. I didn't, and I had the diagram, but I got confused as which way that they were telling me to put the knobs.
Yeah, it seems like I've seen pedal boards a lot. I mean, when I imagine pedal boards, I seem to think that they went from left to right and then down to the next one and left to right, but I didn't really, I guess, examine.
But they don't have to. They don't. And the important thing is that they're labeled correctly and they turn the correct direction. That's really all that matters. But okay, so it starts with what's called a micropog, which is a poly octave generator. Yeah, polyrhythmic, you know, poly octave generator.
Yeah.
And it will handle, you know, a chord, and it will give you an octave up and an octave down, and then you can mix those back in with the original signal. And that feeds into the Electric Mistress stereo flanger. And it's also, it has a chorus and a flanger that you can mix in together. And you can only control the rate. And then what's interesting, though, is that the rate, like from 12 o'clock clockwise, actually changes the LFO rate. It speeds it up as you go clockwise. But when you drop past 12 o'clock and go counterclockwise, it's a manual. And so that way you can control where you want it. But you have to have I mean, you can use an expression pedal, I believe. Nope, this does not even have an expression pedal. So yeah, you've got to use your finger to do that. What guitar player is going to want to do that, right? I mean, that is a serious concern. So this pedal for guitar players can be kind of a pain in the butt. However, and then now that finally goes into the Holy Grail, which is a stereo reverb. And what's cool is, I haven't figured out the flow, but there's a shimmer button. And what I'm told that does is it changes the signal flow. And that's what gives so basically what I'm trying to say is what's cool about this pedal is that it kind of gives a natural shimmer. It gives you the components to build a shimmer reverb yourself.
And so I've been using Shimmer just pretty much. I've been obsessed with it. That's the reverb I've been messing around with the last,
everybody loves
few weeks, because it's just because you can just have it and that's it. You have anything running through it, and then what it does is it creates this sort of orchestra behind it. It's just like this, and they're all playing at once, and then different harmonics will make it go
like this.
And so it's just instant orchestra.
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of it's kind of a gimmick, but I don't know. I'll wait till I get tired of it. I haven't gotten tired of it yet. I don't think anybody's gotten tired of it yet.
But so yeah, so basically, what it takes like the Octaver. By the way, that seems like a very good pedal for vocals, like, because it's got the Octaver, then it's got the chorus, which you might not put too much, but a lot of people use that slapback delay sort of trick, or a little bit of chorusing on their voice when it's the singing, and then you can put a little blanket of reverb on top of that to make it not so bad.
Most definitely. And what I have over here with my mixer, which I just think is vital. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways to do it, but everything changes with guitar pedals when you use a mixer and the aux signal out, and you're able to leak a little bit of whatever signal you want to the pedal, and then have that come back into a track on your mixer and then mix back in with the original signals. And that helps a lot, I think, with the impedance problem with synthesizers and guitar pedals. For example, I could probably use the Avalanche run in that manner and then like just have the Lyra 8 kind of go through that, and it would probably not hit it so hard. I mean, I was getting really, really, really bad clipping. I don't think it damages the pedals when you do that. That's always a concern. Am I killing this thing?
I would think so. Yeah.
I don't think you are. You don't obviously want to just sit there and just keep it like a constant signal going at that level. It will probably burn out that op amp or transistor or whatever is handling that. But I haven't had any problems with that yet. But because of my setup currently, I'm full. I can't take the Avalanche run and do that right now. So I've got to figure something else for that. But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean.
But like you said, with I think that's one of the most important things with effects is like when you get to the point of using a mixer to do a parallel wet and dry. Just do it. Yeah, just run it through without, and then run it through with, that sort of thing, and then put those both up next to each other, and that really, the freedom to be able to do that really is just golden for me. I love it.
I think I can do a quick test to demonstrate that, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What I can do is this is what it sounds like. My voice should be very, very different right now. This is the June 60 chorus that everybody kind of hates. Now, this is the reason why I think everybody hates it, is because it mostly sounds like this for them.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we can kind of change some of the rate and everything. It doesn't really change too much when you change the rates. I'm sorry that my back is turned to you. But
That's
right
fine.
now, you're hearing my voice going through the June 60 only. And now I'm going to, if I do this correctly, now you hear my voice mixed back in with the chorus. And suddenly it's just like, it sounds, it's a little off to the left, I think, and I can work on that. But
yeah, exactly. And it's because, and so even though you would think maybe it's not balanced left and right, but it's like that's the whole trick with delays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the fact that your left ear hears it at a slightly different time than your right ear, or something like that, or you hear the first one slightly at different time than you hear the second one way or another.
Yes. And the June 60 comes back into a rack-mounted mixer that I have down here below where you can't see it, and that's got a pan. So if I want to, I can just kind of adjust the pan a little bit, get it more even.
And see, that really does sound really good. Second,
I think so.
When you add that in.
I don't think it's going to sound as good as the Vintage Ensemble, though, and I'm actually thinking about replacing it. But here comes another issue that I want to talk about with pedals. The June 60 is cool because, well, let me show you this real quick. I shouldn't show you this one at all. This is a pedal that you probably, as a synthesizer jammer, do not need at all. But I got this one at a really good price, and these things, they I can sell this back if I need to. And this thing is solid as a rock. I can't believe the construction of this. What I'm talking about are these top-mounted jacks, and I think they're called top-mounted because when you face it this way, it's like at the top, as opposed to base mounting jacks, which come out of the top if it's on the ground, on the desk. Now, the June 60 behind me has this, and it works out really well because all the cables go back this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I showed you this pedal, because it was right there.
Yeah, isn't that like the Moger Fogers?
Yes.
Are nice like that.
Same thing. Now, this one, however, has the side-mounted jacks. That's going to cause a lot of problem because I don't have room where the June 60 is, here or here. What I can do is I can make my own, if I can find them. Well, I can't. Yeah, here we go. I can make my own cables using some of these jacks, and that's what I'm going to have to do in order to fit that thing in there. Because if I can open this and show you.
Yeah, they're just jacks. Yeah.
And these are so much better because now I'll be able to, and I'm going to have two though. I'm going to have to, like, because it's stereo coming out. And I don't know how, like, so one of them is going to have to be coming up. Yeah, it's just going to be a mess no matter what.
Yeah.
And
I've even seen ones that are
about.
straight just for putting pedals straight together.
You know,
that don't even have a cable.
Yeah, I mean, if I was that crazy, I mean, there's no way I can mod this because the potentiometers are up here at the top, so there's no room to put the jacks up here. And the stomp switches are at the bottom, so there's no room down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
Just things to think about, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's one reason why I just said to myself when I got started, I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna fill up my desk with pedals. But the reason I was saying that to myself is because that's exactly what I was gonna do originally. Was what I was thinking for audio interface. Well, that's after. So what I was thinking is I was working in the box with Ableton and the Arturia V collection, right?
Cool.
With a MIDI controller that went with it. But then so I really dug Arturia and the Mini Brute, and I got the Mini Brute. So then what I was thinking is like, all right, well, the other thing I'm gonna need for music production is a drum machine. So looking at the Drum Brute, you know how it has all those outs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what got me thinking, well, I need an interface that's going to have 16 ins physical because I'm going to need a pedal for each one of these drum sounds. But then I think about, then they're all going to be there on my desk, and I look at other people who've done that, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that just for ergonomic reasons alone. So I'm like,
it's a lot to think about.
You know?
I mean, yeah, if you notice, I don't have these pedals. When I do, I use one or two. That's it. I've got a couple over here that are kind of like a dedicate, and I'm still trying to think about which ones are going to be the best ones. The Trugatronic is definitely staying right there. What I like about it is that I actually use it as a preamp for the drum machine sometimes. It just sounds different, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's the other thing is a lot of this is, I mean, I don't know. Okay, so...
Well, looking back, I obviously wouldn't want to put... people wouldn't put a pedal on every drum sound in the drum kit.
Definitely
separately not. Because you need to for some reason. No.
You know,
but in the box you can. I don't know.
Well, you know, I mean, really, probably what you want to do is get a rack and just get a lot of rack-mounted effects with the patch bay, and then that way you can just route whatever you want to whichever, even with the multi-effects.
Yeah, and that's the smart thing.
Yeah.
Is to have an effect, except, I mean, to some extent. You might want something to have its own modulation controls or whatever, so that it has to be separate from the other things using one effect. I mean, I do have four voices going into my Tip Top Zverb, and it's just a mount of mix basically that I have control over after between the four voices. But you might want something that has its own. Because every sound could potentially want its own thing going on with it, not just a reverb, an amount of reverb. Yeah. Yeah,
and at some point, like when I'm doing something over here and I start to add effects, and then I use up all the effects. I'm looking at a synthesizer, thinking, okay, what can I add this synthesizer to one of the existing configurations that I have, for example, and what's going to happen. A lot of times it works out just fine, really. But you can, and I'm guilty of this, probably get the mix a little too muddy, have a little bit too much going on. And so, yeah, less is more, but I don't know. It's like that with electronic music, we're going for experimentation here a lot of times, I think. I think everybody's looking for new sounds all the time, Yeah,
there's something about electronic music that is just a step into perceiving more of the elements of sound for the listener, even like even somebody who not even somebody who wants to create it, but even just what do people want in electronic music? They want to get more into the nitty gritty of what they're hearing, for one. So you can get into experimentation and really just have people go, huh, instead of going, ugh, you know.
Yeah, but you gotta try. You gotta try. So that's what I found is that like by using some of these effects, I'm getting things that I never heard before. Well, I wouldn't say never heard before, but definitely never would have gotten just going dry. And it also helps to there's certain sounds that are very distinct and like you can just pick them out. And I wonder if my battery's starting to die on this thing. I'm hearing. Okay, no, I think I'm fine. I was hearing my voice kind of crack up, distort a little bit. Sorry.
Not on my end, yeah.
Anyways, so much that I forgot what I was even saying. I apologize. Time to take a drink of water.
Yeah. Well, just about electronic music and experimentation.
Oh, yes. Like, certain pocket operators, for example, like you can, I know what that one is. And running them through effects can bring new life into stale sounds, if you will.
Yeah. It would be the reason why I would pick up a pocket operator again, because when putting a good amount of effects on it externally, it actually smooths it out. I think my ear takes anti-aliasing and just kind of, I just tend to not like it.
Yeah, let's talk about aliasing. So, like, what would produce this aliasing that you're talking about? Because I mean that's a great topic if you ask me.
In the 8-bit stuff.
Okay. It's
the point in between. It's like the off and on point of the note. It almost like you hear the starting and the stopping of it, not just the sound.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not speaking from experience. Like that's just my ear's experience of just trying to figure out what I don't like about certain things. Like when the Medusa? Yeah, the Dreadbox Medusa. I was like, it's like why would you want that rough edges sound along with the rest of it? It's almost like, wouldn't you be trying to get that out of there? I don't like bit crushing for the same reason.
I was going to ask if you're probably not a fan of a bit crusher.
Yeah, for some reason.
Okay, I love bit crushing. I mean, see, that's just the thing, right? I mean, everybody has different kind of...
Yeah, but see, like this has a bit crush knob on it, right? Mm-hmm. And like, here, let's see. Can you hear that?
Yes.
So that's normal.
That sounds like a strike fit.
And then this is the System 1, but it's got this crusher knob on it, and you just turn the crusher up, and
yes.
Of course, I have the reverb all the way up. All the way up. Actually, see, that's not bad. Is I don't mess with it because it's just like when I put it on a normal wave, like square, whatever, a more an init patch, it just seems like it's destroying it. But that's before effects.
I thought that sounded awesome, but it definitely the bit crusher I would say is better for more percussive type, not percussion sounds, but like short attacks. I mean, fast attacks, short delay. Short sustains.
Right.
Decays.
Okay.
And like a TB303, for example. Like take a TB303 clone or whatever, run it through some kind of a distortion.
Yeah, it wants to get. Yeah.
And it starts to form it almost. You can start to make it talk.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool, I think. But
that is pretty cool. I've tried acid once. I mean, I've tried to create acid once. Wait. Okay, how do I say this?
Acid
yeah.
house techno.
But yeah, no, I have a track where I tried to do it in VCV because there's a module in VCV Rack, the software modular, that is just an acid module, and it's really cool. I forgot who, but you can see it on my channel, not too far back, and and yeah, that worked really well. And I think, oh yeah, there was another time where I tried it on the System 1 to try to do like, okay, how do you do an acid patch on any synth? And looked at some people's things. I looked at Oscillator Sync's video, where he did it. He tried to do it on create acid with the monologue, the Korg monologue.
That's not too hard to do with a monologue.
And yeah,
I've heard
and
a few
he
people do that. That's
turned
probably
out
'cause
to
they
be a
watched
good
his
one to
video.
use. It's what though?
I'm sorry, I said I've seen a few
Yeah.
people do acid on a monologue, but it's probably because they watched his video.
Yeah.
Well-
That was me. So yeah. But no, I watched more than just his video. But yeah, it just kind of like I got the, and then I was like, all right, so that's the reason why I don't need to go shopping for a 303 or something like it.
Well, you need
but
more
but
than
I
one
could.
303. You can't just have one.
But the Korg Volca bass was my favorite of all of them because of how it could separate the voices into 3 sequences.
Yeah, and you can use that to if you take the Volca bass and get like all 3 oscillators going. I can't remember, like 2 of them are square, 1 is triangle, or vice versa, and then run that through a phaser, and it sounds like a really good trance patch, like like a pad.
Yeah,
And,
I totally
the
fell
Volca
in love with
bass
that.
was definitely kind of meant to be a 303 clone, and it falls very, very short of that. It's also an ear blaster. Like the resonance on that thing, wow. Which is why you get a compressor. And yeah, the Volca bass, like, okay, so that's a synthesizer that really could use a compressor. Let me change my camera real slowly. I don't want to give anybody motion sickness, but this is a compressor that I have set up right now, and I wanted to demonstrate this pedal whenever, maybe not right now at this moment, but whenever you want to get to it. I wanted to demonstrate the Converter Plus, because this is like another pedal that was designed for synthesizers. But this one definitely, is for guitars, and it is a great all-around synthesizer pedal because
That's cool. It's
yeah,
pretty
it's
old
not-
school with the switch and it's got the patch points.
oh, the Converter Plus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, I need to put some of these little. I like to put these little protective knobs on the switches. It makes them easier to grab.
Yeah, and you told me about that, and I was like, yeah, I totally want to do that, but I didn't order them. But like, yeah, I want some of those. I want some red ones. That would be great.
Did you see my video that I posted yesterday? Okay, yeah, I used the Converter Plus. I plugged in my PO12 rhythm and just picked a pattern that was already on there. I didn't even make a new pattern for it. And what it does is the Converter Plus it has what they call an ACO, an analog controlled oscillator. So it tracks incoming audio. From what I understand, it doesn't work terribly well with basses, perhaps. Like I see a lot of people in a lot of the comments on videos, talking about bass and the makers saying we've made improvements and so forth. But I've had no problems with it whatsoever. I don't play bass anyways. I'm going to demonstrate it with my voice here in a little while. But it also has CV and gate out. So what I did last night is I used the PO12, played a rhythm into the converter. The converter has its own synthesizer, but I used the CV and gate out to control the Model D, the Neutron, and the Cat. Just like basically just tracking off of what the PO12 was doing.
Okay.
And yeah, it's pretty darn powerful. It's actually a lot more powerful than I thought it would be. It's a lot better than I thought it would be.
Okay, so does it have is that an envelope follower that turns into a synth sound, turns in external audio into synth sound, or does it actually has a synth on it?
Okay, well, it has a synth in it, but you control it with the audio input.
Okay, yeah.
And
So that's envelope follower pretty much, right?
I think so. I don't know.
Well, that's what I kind of like when I tried to learn about how that works. There's pedals that turn in, like the synth pedal. What is that? Electro Harmonics does that one. That's like
They have a bunch.
a really micro
well, in fact,
version of it too.
the Epitome, the microprog, on that does that.
Mm-hmm.
And the micropog, actually, they say Electro Harmonics says has the best tracking. A lot of the pedals they have, like the Mel 9, the Synth 9, the Bass 9, and I forget the other ones. They don't have the tracking is not as good, but it's a trade-off.
Mm.
And I love that they say that. They say it right up front. They're like, this is a trade-off. And there's only so much you can fit inside of this pedal. What's hilarious is if you get like I can't reach over and grab it, but the ubiquitous orange Boss DS1 distortion pedal. I mean, I think every synth jammer should have a DS1. If you can find one for like $25, it's a no-brainer. Do not pay more. If you get one brand new, they're like $50. Do not get one that's $100 or more. At that point, that becomes a trading game. Like Beanie Babies almost.
Right. Because it's not necessary.
This is because it's the same thing with guitar players. And there's a lot of guitar players who really believe that the old vintage pedals are the best. And I don't know, maybe some of them are here and there, Maybe if it was owned by somebody famous or something, I don't know, but whatever. But what I was getting at is that, like, when you open up, I was saying that, like, there's only so much room to put in these pedals. Well, you open up one of those Boss DS1s and it's all air. There's like the circuit board is like this big. It's pretty funny because, I mean, it's a distortion pedal, and all it is just an op amp and a couple of resistors and capacitors to how do I say that? Just to control the amounts of distortion, essentially.
Yeah.
The amount of gain, and it's a little more complicated than that. It's biasing is what it's doing.
But it's the simpler pedal that you can make.
It's a very simple pedal. Yeah, and the Boss pedals are constructed really well. They're really, they're really meant to be, abused. Have you seen like those?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what everybody says. Everybody has always said the same thing about those. Yeah, they're really roadworthy.
Like how many has Simon Magpie destroyed?
Mike Hydropneumatic just says I got a DS1 on a Drum Brood Impact. Yeah.
Oh, I bet that sounds really cool. I mean, they're fun to play with. I mean, you get to a point to where, like, you lose some bass response when you do that. So what I always do is that, I mean, if I want to break away to something, I may have, like, just a distorted drum machine by itself, and that kind of, like, drops everything down a bit. But when you want to have, like, the main beats going on, you want to at least have two drum machines. And one that's distorted and one that's, able to kind of push through all those frequencies that you really need, to pump and breathe.
Yeah.
I think that's why one drum machine is not enough.
Yeah, I'm starting to think so. It's kind of weird how, like, Novation's coming out with their two new circuits, and so it's really weird for me to think about my needs, drum machine needs, and because, like, it's like, what do you want? Do you want how much control do you want on how much? And then it's always nice to have a few more tracks to work with. So, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and update my circuit to, it's just got a few more things going for it, and not worry about the circuit rhythm, which is the 8-channel just sampler, which would be the perfect standalone drum machine, but not with a circuit, because then the circuit has its 4 drum tracks as half of it. So it always seems like, well, maybe it's a waste unless you're one of those people who's going to work with 12 tracks of drums. And then I think, like, well, doesn't everybody already do that by getting the TR-8? It's like 11 tracks, and the original Drum Brood is very similar amount of tracks. So maybe that is still okay to have a circuit and a circuit rhythm and have that doing everything. However, I actually have just scrapped all that to decide that that the 101 TR6S combo would be my version of that, pretty much. Of just like I'd
trying
have
to wrap all that inside my head real quick. It is a lot. Like, I could sit here and talk for 3 hours about what I've got set up over here. Just the just the core. I don't call it infrastructure, but just
But you're to
the
the
routing.
project point then. You pick for a project, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, what I don't have is I don't have the means to do like any kind of serious composition, songwriting, because I mean I'm not interested in doing that right now. Interested in doing more improvisational type kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and something that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on. Like just I mean literally like the Ed Wood's school of electronic music production. Maybe a little bit better artistic quality than he would put into it, but the same kind of speed thrown into it.
Yeah, not putting effort into the things that are not of the content.
Yes, and
I'm
the
I'm
bigger,
totally with that vibe.
but the bigger you get, the harder it gets. I think, like getting this big, because it's really kind of hard to decide upon something.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm starting to slowly figure out is to just like I said last time, is to keep it real simple. Just pick a few synthesizers, leave them all on, let them sit there and just enjoy being on. But not don't I don't necessarily have to write a part for them,
Mm-hmm.
because like every part that you write, you've got to mix it in,
Yeah.
and now and then like you've got to remember like how to get when you're performing, when you're jamming. So many times I'll set something up and I'll never use it, and I'll realize the next day, oh, I forgot to do that. How silly of me.
Yeah, and that's why it's kind of hard to pick something like the Roland, the 101, or even like if you go for a TR6 or a 707 or anything like that, where they've got all the drum kits on there. They've got all your classic drum kits. They've got all your other types of sounds if you're that type of person. All your other types of kits if you're that type of person. And it's just tons in there, but it's in there.
It's in there, exactly.
And then you're going to go like, if you set it up, it's just going to be like a preset with a number on it way over here. Even your whole setup kit that you're going to use for something. And so yeah, it's almost like it can get lost inside if it's not there on the surface somehow with its controls and stuff.
I totally agree with that, and the sound source comes from the same place.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes a difference when you have two drum machines, two separate drum machines being mixed together, than using like one groove box that maybe will allow you to have two drum tracks.
Right.
Usually anytime I use a groove box, I'm always like I just can't use it as a central brain for what I really want to do. The pyramid has proven to be I still wonder how the engine, what they call it, social entropy engine, would have worked
Yeah.
out for me.
Yeah, that's the first one I ever looked at as a big sequencer.
I
'Cause
think it was like $1,000, $1,200
Yeah.
last time I looked. I haven't looked in a long
But
time.
there wasn't anything else going on besides the Circlon and the pyramid.
That and the engine is only 8 tracks, anyways.
Yeah.
And then I'm right back to the hybrid type kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the pyramid, man, I mean, it really hampered me. Like it kind of weighed me down. I think it would be the same thing with Electron. Like if you get a Digitact or the Octatract, you've got to learn that thing inside and out.
Yeah. Well, that's where our big challenge lies, and I think we can't actually really, if we really care about doing this stuff, and if we really like it, then we gotta like be doing the parts of it that are the dumb things we don't want to do,
Fair
and
enough,
be
yeah.
disciplined
Yeah.
to some extent. That's where I think
Yes.
I feel like I need to go now, is
Me too.
because yeah, and like
I need to
the thing
program
is,
my fader files.
even with the circuit, all the things that I haven't gotten to just muscle memory yet, and like things like, oh well, remember to go and do the panning and things like that. You have to just stay on something and really like learn it as like take a whole lesson out. Like if it's just like do an experiment that's just a project that uses that function, and make sure that you've done it and that you can remember that you've done it. So next time you go to the machine, you'll do like more of the things that machine was meant for you to do instead of just like half of it,
Oh yeah,
It's
totally.
like-
And the thing, if you don't mind me kind of bringing this back a little bit, the thing that I learned from my January excursion that I did with the pedals was that, yeah, those pedals do all kind of sound different. What I did, when I did the jam, like what I decided what I was not going to do was I was not going to try to showcase the different ranges of the pedals, the distortions and so forth. Because if you're going to do that, you have to have a compressor set up all the time. And I didn't want to use a compressor unless it really kind of, I didn't use a compressor maybe like 3 or 4 times, maybe the most. And because like the change in volume and gain between the two, it's just too much to handle, and you've got to do like a lot of gain writing. I was already doing a lot of gain staging, manual gain staging, when I was swapping out the effect on and off. So what I did is that I tried to find like a really good sound is all I tried to do, like something that sounded pretty good to my ears.
Mm-hmm.
And for each pedal, like they kind of had a different, different. Like as I said before, really what a lot of it is, especially with the overdrives and the boost pedals, is it's just an EQ and a preamp, and it colors the sound. You can think of it like that. Like they're preamps that color the sound. More importantly, though, they're sort of like these impedance bridges, because with the guitars, I don't want to get too technical this time, but they're high impedance outputs, and a very, very low signal. And so what was it I said before? Like like the rule of thumb is you have low impedance inputs and high impedance outputs, right? No, high impedance inputs and low impedance outputs. And the reason for that is because you don't want to like have a strong signal. Like as I said before, like it's kind of okay to slam these pedals with a high signal, a hot signal, because they have that high impedance input.
I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Overall,
it is good, and it also does well to match with mic level, which covers your microphones and your guitar pickups. And then the low impedance output just helps so that it doesn't drag down the signal that's trying to pull from it, in a sense, and it also doesn't drag itself down. That gets pretty technical though, but that's really what the impedance issue is. And we like when you hear people throw the word impedance around a lot, it's kind of a buzzword in a way. You got to watch out for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's about I feel like So but yeah, that was kind of the sad news though for me, was that all these guitar pedals do kind of sound different. So now I'm thinking like how am I going to sit here and like if I want to sound right, am I going to go through and try all these different pedals? And you want to know what? Yeah, I do. That's exactly what I do, actually. That is a lot of the secret of what I do with a lot of my music. A lot of the time I spend actually is going through and trying out different effects to see how they, what kind of magic I can pull out of it. And if it takes me 2 days to go through, like I will, do that if necessary.
Yeah. I've been kind of like disappointed with certain onboard effects. The thing is, it's like, maybe I could find a way that's like, okay, maybe there's different reverbs that'll go further in here, and then maybe then when I turn it all the way to 127 value on the encoder, that it'll actually give me anywhere near the amount I actually want, instead of just stopping at that. But
maybe what I should do is a jam where I just like reject just show everything that I'm rejecting. Because
no, that's what I'm curious about. It's like how many pedals out there are good, have a good range of what they're giving you, and then how many others are kind of like the Timberwolf, where it's like you turn it, the first 10% of the knob actually does something, and then the rest doesn't, or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, now that is a serious quality issue right there. Yeah, that is. See, that sounds like my pedals that I've been building. Not like the ones that I showcase. Not the orange one. That thing is brilliant. That's a kit that I built though. It should sound good. But like the first pedals that I built, like trying to figure out that range and get the full range where it actually does something, and it doesn't cut off. That's where the craftsmanship really is regarding circuit design. I didn't know that about the Timberwolf. If the Timberwolf does that, that's a bummer. But you know what you can do if you kind of knew it, like you can open that sucker up and fix it.
Hmm.
I mean, to a degree. I mean, there may be, some things that you can't fix at all. I don't know at all. I have to look into
That
it.
would be interesting.
Well, I mean,
Somebody
look
doing a video on making a Timberwolf good.
yeah, I mean, like if there are potentiometer issues like that, those can be fixed theoretically. Now, it may be like really hard to do. A lot of times, like it could have been that. I mean, mistakes get made. Somebody,
Yeah, but it's
like
like the
one
whole
person in the
thing.
company could screw it all up.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm
the
not
thing
talking
is,
about a Kai Dan.
yeah. Well, it's actually the whole synthesizer across the board. It's like modulation doesn't tend to do much in
Okay,
any of
wow.
the and like, yeah. It's where it's like it's the filter, turn the filter up and down, and there's only certain parts on the knob that really actually work it. Change it to where you want it, and then the rest of the knob is useless. And it's like,
Yeah, that sucks.
it's
Because,
almost like
I mean,
you're dealing with this slime layer above the synth or something. I don't know what.
now you're in Suckland. It's just,
Yeah, it's funny to watch the videos. It really is.
that is really funny. I got a quick aside. I don't know if you know who Josh from JHS Pedals is, but he's got a great channel
I've watched
on
some of
YouTube.
his videos. Yeah.
He's so sardonic, it's hilarious, and he talks about that with the infamous Klon. He said like there's an area on one of the potentiometers where when you're past 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and further down to 6 o'clock, it doesn't engage the diode clipping. And he said it's so funny to watch videos where people talk about, yeah, check out this diode clipping, and they're hitting that range, and he's just looking at them going like, you're not hearing anything, buddy. Busted, there are things that if you know the device, you can see like, what's going on with that. So it would be really funny to watch somebody like tweak all the insignificant ranges on a Timberwolf or the Timberwolf, right? And pretend like it's doing something when it's not.
Yeah.
That'd be a good meme. Probably
Yeah,
not.
and
Though. Nobody would get it. Nobody would get it.
Right. And that's a thing about modular too, is that it just ends up being that a lot of the values, even stuff on the like plats on the like digital algorithms that they put on the different knobs for functions, is like there's a lot of times where you're not going to find hardly any of that's anywhere near listenable without some kind of heavy filter and effects or something like that. And so to start out with a listenable sound on on a lot of those is really hard. It's like, yep, you got to kind of keep it in the center. You can't go like at all or at all the other way. Clouds is like that too, where it just goes into. But see, that's the great part about it. When it can go into extreme levels of something, like further than you would go, that's okay. That's good, as long as it's still doing something. But it still kind of ends up being not useful most of the knob.
Yes, I have a number of distortion pedals that will, they'll make fart noises, and they'll just like just like squeaking and squealing. Like the Trogatronic is definitely one. And if you know anything about Trogatronic stuff, I mean, man, they are one of the noisiest circuit builders I've ever heard.
Yeah. And they have a fun-looking design to go along with it. So.
Yeah, their videos are just like, they're pretty outlandish. And maybe you've heard of the Zvex Fuzz Factory.
Yeah.
That thing, is legendary. It is absolutely legendary, and it really rivals the Trogatronic, honestly. Like the Trogatronic has a tube in it, like a 12AX7 tube. And I'm not sure what the voltage that it's running at within that range. I don't know. I mean, it just gives you more headroom. It's really all that kind of does. But like the Fuzz Factory is all transistors, maybe, and op amp. I haven't really looked in there to see what's inside of it, but definitely not tubes.
See you, Yankee. See you next week.
Hey, bye. Thanks for stopping by. And it squeaks and squeals just as much as the Trogatronic, definitely. But it feels more compressed. It definitely feels more like there's a compressor in there, and I think a lot of that, like the squeaking and squealing, is a byproduct of the compression that it's being employed in that pedal somehow. And whereas with the Trogatronic, I don't know, it feels like it reaches into more sonic territory than the Fuzz Factory does. But you know, the Fuzz Factory is half, like not half the price. But yeah, actually, you can get like a beat up used one for maybe like $120, and not much cheaper. I've never seen one for under $100 though. Like just beat all up, you know. Maybe non-functioning, you could find one for under $100. I haven't seen those on Reverb though.
Maybe non-function.
Fuzz Factories.
Mm-hmm.
I see like quite a few, and I did buy a non-functioning pedal to try to fix it myself, and I'm still in the process of fixing it right now. It may take me. I may fix it by the end of the year. We'll see.
There was one pedal that was the only, you know, I was gonna dub it the only pedal I would ever be interested in, sort of thing, when it came out, and I thought it was perfect. Was the Box Hypnosis, but I never. I never pulled the trigger on that.
You know, I bought that one. I got that one through Craft Music, brand new. It was a pretty good deal, no tax, no shipping. And I figured when I bought that one, I wanted to get it new because I was wary of the spring that was in there. I thought that would be too fragile, and that like if I bought one used, you know, a shipping mishap could happen.
Yeah.
Whereas if I got it from Craft, I felt like, you know, it was gonna get here reliably. And I love it to death. I use it, you know, almost too much. It's a bit much. It definitely. I think like, you know, if you watch. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name right now.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark Doty.
Mm-hmm.
Automatic Gainsay.
Yeah. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But he definitely talks about how, like, you know, some of the, when it gets out there, it's like, ooh, this may not be very usable. This particular, you know, preset for
Well,
you.
right. It's like it makes the track if it's there.
Yeah, but you know, so I can just do this though. And just have this weird kind of, you know, that's a little too much. But you know, if I try, there we go. That's like a nice little background noise.
Yeah.
You can kind of barely hear that. And that all I did was I just turned the output up.
It's almost like there's a party downstairs or something. Yeah.
Whoa! I'm gonna knock off this thing eventually. Should I demonstrate the Converter Plus for you real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. I was hoping.
I'm probably not gonna. You know, like I'm gonna be hard pressed to move the camera, I think, and do this. But what I'm gonna do is I've got my Altoids 10 right here. See if I can do this. Yeah, there we go. This is a preamp that I made. And I hate Altoids 10s because, well, a lot of people like them. I don't really care for them. But that is just a simple preamp powered by a 9-volt battery. And this is the microphone that I showed you last time. And you should be able to hear me. Yeah, there we go. So it's pretty cool because it makes a whole lot of really cool noises. Oh, let me point here at what I'm talking about. So yeah, it tracks my voice. And I'm going to have to put the camera down. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak the octave knob. The harmony knob, you're not really going to notice much because I'm not singing. But the harmony knob does work. And I've used this. Now, hang on a second. Can you hear me at all? Am I discernible, or is that just a bunch of noise?
Yeah, no, I can hear your voice and what you're saying clearly still, but then it has all of these, artifacts trailing off of it that go into.
Yeah, so
Great.
I use the, you're familiar with the Pocket Operator Arcade, the PO20, and the like the Mario 1-up sound.
Yeah,
you can
that's
do?
the 20. That was the first one I got.
Yeah, that thing
The
through
arcade.
this sounds amazing. And what I can't wait to do is the like the ding, whatever that little effect that you can do with the PO20. I want to do that and have it trigger like the Model D or something with that effect. And you maybe sample it and use it later or something. But here's the octave that goes way up, and it goes way up, and then way back down. And it does a really good job of getting way low sub-synthesizer type kind of stuff. And you can also change from, this is a square wave, straight up square wave, hello, and this is the sawtooth. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah. Oh, here. I was looking for.
You can make cool sounds just like knocking it against things. And of course, I'm using some reverb and delay on that. So no, yeah, when you don't have reverb and delay, it doesn't sound that good. And I think, no, I'm probably not going to be able to reach the mixer to turn off the delay and reverb, unfortunately. I kind of decided I wanted to add it and have it. Better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Yeah. I've got some, so this is synth voice. This is for the, on the RC505.
That's
it just
cool.
kind of creates a sort of like a transient, something like a transient there. Lo-fi, ring modulator.
I love ring modulators.
Guitar to bass is usually pretty cool because it's
that is pretty cool.
Octave down. Slow gear is similar. It like creates a lower sort of thing going on.
It's like a sustained compressor.
Okay, robot. See, like, this is the one robot. The
That's
robot
a cool
voice
voice
does
right
this. Except for it's like it's all one pitch, I think, right? Yeah.
You sound very distressed. That's the distressed robot voice.
And then vocal distortion. Vocal distortion up, 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 up. And this is vocal distortion, yeah. Huh. And vocoder, that's the one that I can't seem to, it doesn't really work. I can't.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
I can't get it to work.
Usually, like, the reason why my mini Chaos Pad vocoder works is because you hit the pad and you basically send an oscillation through it. Just like a synth note.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all behind the scenes. You don't really hear the synth note. All you hear is just the vocoding sound. But like that's the vocoder has to have a carrier to write on.
Yeah.
So you may be able to. I mean, was that a VST that you were using?
No, this is just the RC505 loop station.
Oh.
Here.
Weird.
I use it as my audio interface, and that's why
I didn't know that.
I'm using my PC's audio interface to listen to everything on the stream instead of onto the. I usually just have everything. I have this in and out as an audio interface, everything in and out. But yeah.
That's really cool. I had no idea that could be an audio interface. Those are like $500 still.
Yeah.
I don't see them going for like the used ones. They keep their values pretty well.
Yeah, and so since I always wanted a serious audio interface in the end, as far as the loop station thing, and that I also wanted a sampler that's the kind I can edit a sample on,
mm-hmm.
and that's the kind of sampler that I'd like in the end, that eventually I'd sell this, and so yeah, I probably still could, but I think about it, but then it's like when I get my replacement sampler and audio interface, then totally could get rid of this, because it's really amazing, but it's kind of weird. But then again, so like this can be my dedicated mono stations pedal. It could also be something like that, and so I never have to sell it. But yeah, it's so weird, but it's so amazing in various ways that it can't lose its value, I guess, huh?
Yeah, a lot of people like it. I didn't realize there's the I don't know if it's the original Boss loop station. Boss makes a number of these dual pedals.
Uh-huh.
And I've been tempted to get the Giga Delay because I've heard just so many great things about it. Totally digital delay. Well, most delays are really digital anyways. But like to bring up another thing is that a lot of these pedals have inputs for the expression pedal, what they call.
Mm-hmm.
And expression pedal, just something you put your foot on and go back and forth. It could be like a wah or a volume pedal, but what they do is they allow you to, like for example, this vintage delay has an input for the expression pedal. And what's neat, I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but each knob has white dots going around it. And all the way at the far clockwise position is a red dot.
Yeah, that's important. I think that's important for synths. I just totally like to preach that's like, that just brings it way up to another level.
For this actually has, there's not one on the opposite side though. The reason why each one has a red dot is because when it's in that position, it means that you can control that knob now with the expression pedal instead.
Okay, yeah.
And that's great for a guitar player because you're using your foot to do that. A synth player can do that as well. In fact, There's a video of Vangelis, where he's playing synthesizer, and he's got these ridiculous feed pedals things.
Yes.
Maybe you've seen it. Nobody knows what nobody knows what that is. Like all that stuff was made for him.
Yeah, he's the master of the pedal system. He it's just an extension of the organ.
I mean, to me, I'm watching that, and I'm like, my brain can't process that he's actually playing that live. It's like total faith. Because none of that. I mean, the only thing that it looks familiar to me is the keyboard itself. That's
right.
all.
But except that then he goes and explains it.
Okay, I didn't watch that part.
He explains it in a video, and that's amazing. Of how he's just like says like, I've got this here and this here. It's like these are all the controls for like this is how we switch back and forth, and then the pedals are also are actually determining which instrument he's using as well.
That's really cool. That's really, really, really cool. Yeah.
But so we can have an orchestra over here and an orchestra over here and an orchestra here on these different areas, and it's obviously you couldn't have it all in one computer because it's just too much DSP.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface on what he was doing for any of that, so I can't even begin to comment. Apart from that, just blew my mind away. But so like if the difference between an expensive pedal and a lesser pedal is that it has an expression input, then as a synth player you might not need that at all. There's a lot of pedals that they're really cool, but they have extra features that as a synth player you're just never going to use. And if there's something a little bit better, it might be okay to use that instead.
Yeah, well, the keyboards have always had the sustain pedal going on for that, for keyboardists, but still as a synth player you don't necessarily think about it.
And these are not just for they do have volume pedals, but the expression pedal ties directly into specific functions for that pedal. Like here you in the RC505 you use it mainly for the looping for the start and stop and stuff like that. I was wondering about that. I mean, what would you use an expression pedal for on the art? I mean, I would think
that's what
for the effects.
Looping, when people loop, they usually use a pedal to do it.
Okay, but that would be like a switch pedal, though, right? Like another
switch pedal, just a switch.
Okay.
Yep, as a switch.
Yeah.
But that's different than obviously than the sustain pedal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody, quick offset. Somebody on Reverb recently made, there's a lot of DIY builders out there. I'm trying to build my own pedals myself, and somebody built one, and it's a stomp, it's a foot press, where you instead of doing this with it, you it's like a gas pedal, but it's what's underneath the gas pedal though, so it's just the actual part that you push on it right here, and that's pretty cool. I think I think that gets back to the idea of new interfaces, of finding innovative interfaces.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I have a sustain pedal, and it seems like the opposite of that. Or it's that's different than that. It definitely is. And the what is it? The Osmos keyboard is kind of incorporating that as a new idea of instead of having aftertouch, the whole key is one big aftertouch. You start to press it down, and it's a gradual curve from top to bottom.
That could be cool. I don't need that kind of functionality myself. I don't. Maybe there will come a day when I do, but I see a lot of people wanting polyphonic aftertouch, for example. And I don't know. I don't really need that. I don't. It's I think a lot of that is because using these pedals, it's really bizarre. You can get a little bit of polyphony out of a monophonic sound just using reverb. And allowing the sounds to just blend, as each note plays and stops.
Yeah.
And it just kind of blends into the next one.
Yeah. No, I know. I mentioned that before. It's I prefer. I like to when I take a sound and it's ringing out because of the envelope a certain amount. I tend to like it more when I take that envelope down a little bit shorter and then the reverb up to have the reverb do the tail instead. It's just the smoothest. And it blends them together more,
Well, I don't know that I have much more to talk about pedals than any other questions. I did find out something of interest, though. And I don't think a lot of people know about this yet. but the Behringer Wasp has a bug.
Huh.
It has a defect. I wanna say,
Okay.
because it's not software.
So you
And
found something in
I
the
didn't
Wasp?
find it. Somebody else found it, and
Okay.
I recreated it with my Wasp. And I mean, I could try to demonstrate it right now, but I'm not ready to do that, and it would take me, a couple minutes to ramp up to get it to, to show you what it is.
Well, I think you're
Not
pretty
that
good
big
at
a deal.
explaining things.
Yeah. Well, it is. I don't know how this person even found it, but I mean, okay. Maybe it's Muff Wiggler. There's a forum out,
Mhm.
and there's a fix. If you don't mind cracking it open yourself and fixing it, it sounds like a very, very easy fix. Actually, it sounds like a very common thing to kind of have happening. Actually, but still, how somebody found this? I mean, like for me, my problem is that when I have a synthesizer like the Wasp and has two oscillators, I'm
Mhm.
always using both oscillators at the same time because I just want that thick, beefy sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Same,
so this
same
one,
here. I'm not gonna turn one of the oscillators down in the mix. Hardly ever am I ever gonna do something like that.
well, I probably should
Just to
maybe,
test it.
Yeah, I probably should because I mean it helps with mixing other things together sometimes. I mean, yeah, but, I mean that's the thing is that when you listen
But-
to something, a lot of people we're very guilty of when we're choosing a synthesizer of listening to it in a vacuum, out of context with everything else that's going to be going on.
Yeah.
And but that's another side. So
That I would
Go
say
ahead.
it's hard to have an opinion there, but the problem is it's still easy to have an opinion when you then just see it out of context.
Oh yeah, totally. So the bug for the Wasp, you first of all only have one oscillator on. This one we use oscillator 1. I don't know if you use oscillator 2 and it causes the same issue. And then from there, basically what you're doing is just taking the filter. I think you're setting it to low pass and cranking the filter all the way off, choking it out and then cranking the resonance all the way up. So it's basically self-oscillating. And with a pretty short decay, not too long. And what ends up happening is that every once in a while, the note will double trigger. Now, if you start to put the filter, open up some of the filter, it won't double trigger anymore. And it's very, very, very minor. Very I want to say it's insignificant.
That might be because of key tracking of the filter.
I think it's stray capacitance is what it is, and the solution is to add a resistor, which I think it's basically kind of shunting one of the pins on the IC that's affected by it, which may be a VCA, and I think what it's doing is it's just picking up some stray capacitance off of part of the circuit itself.
Yeah. So were they?
That's my guess.
Did anybody say whether that was like an original Wasp sort of thing?
Well,
like just the way they designed it.
Oh no, I don't think so because people have returned their units, sent them back in and had them repaired by Behringer. Apparently, I mean,
Right.
allegedly,
Well,
I want to say.
Yeah. So if it is an issue like that, then maybe making it smaller made that issue.
Yes,
But-
I agree. Well, definitely making it smaller. It's a different circuit design. I mean, it's the same circuit, right? But they can't, they don't use the exact
Okay.
same layout.
Okay.
They changed
So
the
it's not-
layout
yeah,
of the
okay.
circuit. And so you'd be, it's never going to sound the same if you do that. I mean,
But the truth
is it
is
close
usually
enough?
you're going to be able to sound more accurate with it if you give yourself more freedom as a circuit designer, right?
say that again. I didn't understand.
If you
that.
give yourself more freedom as the circuit designer, as the designer of the thing, to do what you need to do to make it sound right, then yeah, it's going to sound more like the original, as opposed to if you do it like the original and go like, well, that doesn't sound like it, so what if I do this? You have the freedom to do that. It can
Well,
actually
yeah.
sound more like the synth, theoretically, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily. I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm
No,
not going to say
it's
that at
just-
all because I don't know.
Just a shot in the dark, but yeah.
But I mean, what it really boils down to is they said, okay, we want that Euro rack form factor or that size right here,
Uh-huh.
and it's going to fit in this boat. And here's how big the PCB is going to be. Fit all that stuff on this PCB,
Yeah.
and that's really kind of how it works. It's just that simple. And I mean, It's really fun designing a circuit, by the way. It really, I mean, it could be like a really cool puzzle solving type kind of thing, like if you're into Tetris and, crossword puzzles and just, design. It's really interesting to see like how, like, like I just throw stuff down and then like, okay, we'll start throwing some lines, and you realize, okay, well, these things can't cross, so I got to move this over here. But now this causes that, and it really is pretty fun. And you learn pretty quickly that, I mean, that is kind of the name of the game with analog circuits, is that the reason why Behringer, whatever, is not being sued is because they're not using the exact same design of the circuit. They're using the same schematic. Do you see the difference? That's the brilliance of being able to read a schematic. That's what, if anybody wants to learn electronics,
Okay, yeah.
If you can learn how to read a schematic, that is kind of like a big, step forward.
Yeah, I actually learned in Boy Scouts. I did the electronics merit badge, and
That's
so
awesome, dude.
tried to learn the basics there, and so I kind of did know just a little bit of the basics back then. But
You'd have no
never
problem picking
since.
it back up, I think, then, if you've already, like, if you got a merit badge doing that, then you had to do at least some effort.
And ham radio,
Oh.
making a ham radio.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Excuse me, digesting. I'm still trying to learn Morse code right now, just because why not?
Yeah,
But I'm not.
that's
I'm taking my time
interesting.
learning it. It's. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of that's. I don't know. It's going to be really hard to really learn Morse code. But
I think it'd be
actually would
cool
like
to
get,
to
get my
find
ham
one of those
license.
things.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think it'd be cool to find one of those Morse code things.
One of those. I can
The
just make
old
one.
ones. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'd be cool to find an old one that's got some history to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're really simple to make, and that is, like I said before, that is the genesis of what we're doing, the telegraph. It really is.
Yeah.
So many things, so many problems and solutions that led to where we are came from the telegraph.
Yeah, and my dad just reminded me of how, just from some unrelated story, about how my grandmother was a telephone operator from way back in the day, and she was doing the patching people to people the whole all the ways, and it's like, yeah, well, that's what they started, that's how this got started, from all of that, from using that to make synths. And so kind of I have a connection to that because I'm doing that because of those people, and my grandmother was doing that. So,
Oh yeah, that's really cool. I've learned that my aunt used to make capacitors for Bell South, before they became AT&T. And she said like they would like wind up the electrolytical capacitors.
Uh-huh.
And just right there, like, okay, I had no idea that you guys did that. That's really wild. Speaking of jacks and everything, like you have a passive mult by any chance?
Yeah. Well, no, I have a buffered mult by Erica Synths that's amazing. That does 2 in and 8 out. I mean, it does. If you have one plugged into it, it does 8 out.
Oh, that's all. Hang on 1 second. 1 second. Oh, I knew it was going to happen. Fortunately, I'm not as mobile as I want to be. Okay, but you know what a passive mult is.
Yeah, me neither. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so, and like this one has, it's 1 in, 6 out, or you can break it right here and do like 3 for the top and then 3 for the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's cool.
How do they do that? How is it that when you insert a jack right here, well, I can't. Yeah.
Well, I
can do
would
that.
think you
Here we
have
go.
something that makes it something that switches like on top of it that breaks the other when it connects.
Where's the switch?
Oh. Okay.
It's
No,
inside the
it's-
jack.
Oh.
It's inside the jack.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a trick. It's a trick. It's something. It's so hard. It's like one of those things that you don't know what you don't know kind of things.
Uh-huh.
What they're doing
Well, did it
is
just naturally do it with any jack then?
no.
Oh,
No.
okay.
It has to be a switching jack,
Okay.
and you have to wire it accordingly. So what's happening is the signal is being piggybacked through each one across the terminal, where when you insert the jack, it breaks the connection. So when you insert the jack, when you insert the connector into the jack, it breaks the switch.
Yeah.
So there's
Pushes something that then just goes.
Yeah, there's literally like. I wish I could show you real quick. I might be able to. Oh, that was cool.
So I wonder though, does it disconnect something? Does it disconnect a line of current, or does it actually
Well,
make another loop to disconnect it?
It does both. So
Okay.
so the loop that's being made is when is from the device that you're connecting into.
Okay.
And now that makes one loop. But the loop that was there before, okay, so what we have here is you've got an input right here. And that feeds all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to this jack right here, and it's wired differently than the rest of them. Now they're all switching jacks because it's cheaper, it's been more beneficial to the kit maker who's selling kits for people to build. To have all of the same type kind of thing, so there's no confusion.
Yeah.
Cheaper to buy.
It's cheaper to buy, definitely.
Yeah. So for the most part, pretty much all jacks that you find are going to be switching. A lot of them are. Oh, of course. Here we go. I did that again.
But does that mean that you could? Well, see, then why couldn't you put in two in the first and second one, and then have them?
Say that again.
But if they're all switching, then maybe you could put one in the second one and have that be an in instead of an out, and then all the rest of them go out from there.
If you wired it to be that way, you could. So basically, the way this works is that these two are wired on the PCB differently. So even though you put you put them in the same each 6, is there 6 or 8, whatever that number is, 7.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So there's still a PCB.
It's so funny when I do that.
Cool.
Okay, so maybe this will help explain. I'm gonna have to kind of do this a little differently. Nope. Here we go. Okay. Now look very carefully at the top. Can you see how there's like a little metal bend underneath?
Yeah.
That's what breaks right there. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down even more so you can see it even better. See how I've pulled it down? I bent it.
Uh-huh.
This is a crappy jack, jack. It's poor quality. The reason why it's poor quality is because it's a switching jack. But unfortunately, this right here, how it, I've got to get another.
It
plier.
stays bent.
Yeah, it stays bent, and the problem is that when you put a connector in, and it pushes, what happens is it pushes that up.
Mm-hmm.
See how I'm doing that?
Yeah.
And it breaks the connection right there. Now, how this works, though, there's a trick. You have to take the signal that you want it to break and route it through this thing. So guitar pedals will have the power, the 9 volts will go through these jacks. And then when you put in your input, it breaks the connection. And that way, you save your battery. And it's crazy, dude. And that's also why things are center negative for the most part. That's a whole other topic, though. Because I need diagrams. And you need to see, what's going on. It's hard to just explain.
I just thought about that with the circuit today, about how just like I still am afraid to, like, I don't want to plug it in. Like, I plugged it in while it was on using the battery. And I'm like, well, is that okay?
Yeah.
And now what is it using? I don't even know. But I think it does. It just switches to that, and then it's okay. And then But I still switch it off first, and then plug things in, and then turn it on again, always, except for just now.
My Alien Sasquatch pedal was actually, it's over here. I'm pointing there. It's not. It's over here. When I first got it, so that's a lot of these guitar pedals, especially the boutique ones. Let me back up a little bit more. One of the first things that problems I was trying to solve that I didn't realize was not even a problem, was that if I wanted to build a guitar pedal, I thought to myself, well, nobody is going to want to take a screwdriver, right, and open up the back to get to the battery. And I have no idea, like, how am I going to get some kind of opening back connector thing like these other ones have? But no, it turns out that boutique pedal builders buyers are actually okay with opening up with a screwdriver and getting in there into the battery. So really, a lot of times if you get a guitar pedal, you kind of do want to open it up if you can. And if I can reach over here, maybe, what I recommend you do when you're opening a guitar pedal is get a good short-nosed Phillips head screwdriver and put it in a wrench like this, and then tighten it up really good, and that way you've kind of got your palm. And then twist them against each other and make sure you're going the right direction. Don't tighten it accidentally, because the last thing you want to do is you do not want to strip those screws. That would be so bad.
Yeah.
And especially if it's an older pedal. Like I've got these old Boss flangers that I want to modify. And I didn't think I was going to be able to get them open, the screws, because I was like, starting to strip them. And at that point, you get to where you actually have to drill them out. And that's not where you want to be at all. But yeah, that's an extreme, and you're not going to have to worry about. But if most of the time, like most people don't tighten those suckers back up. It's usually like, I opened up this one last night, and it was pretty difficult to get open. They don't really want you to get inside this pedal, and that's straight out of the factory. But a lot of these other ones, they're not really.
But it doesn't go on battery?
Yes. Okay, this one, that's a great. I'm glad you. Okay. The only thing that doesn't run on battery are things that run on mains. If it has one of these suckers, I keep hitting that. It's so funny. Sorry. Well, sorry, I can't show you that. I thought I could.
Well, yeah, years ago when we started going live on YouTube, and I was watching Simon's live streams, and videos, he started talking about pedals. I'm kidding. But he got a little bit of a he really wanted everybody to know. He had a sort of a crusade about this, is that pedals are a lot more complicated than you guys think. Just having a bunch of pedals is not going to guarantee that they're going to work, because it's like,
yes,
they all have to run on batteries, and then you have to try to connect them with the adapters and try to get all that to work, and it's like, you guys don't even know.
Let me show you something, if I'm not cutting you off.
No, you're not.
Under this black box that I'm pointing at, that's my power. Right, and I made that myself. It's got 6 ports, and what I do is, you may see, like, this one's, it's kind of hard to see with the lighting, sorry, but okay, here's the end of this one. So some of them are red, and some of them are blue. Like here's, I keep hitting that microphone, sorry, and that one's blue. So the what's going on with that is that's my own color coding. The blue ones are center negative, and the red ones are center positive.
Yeah.
And that way, I can plug in anything. So I can plug in my Volcas. Let me show you this too. Anybody who has Volcas needs. Why does everything disappear when you go to show it? You know what I mean? There it is. It's right there in front of me. This is essential for Korg Volcas. This is your adapter.
Yeah.
And I bought these on Amazon. And what's really cool is that they work with any DC jack. So I can just plug this into what I've already built, and now I can power my Volcas because it's also center positive. And
okay, yeah. See, I need one of those for my modular, because I've got an adapter that came with my one of my tip top power things here, and I somehow don't have another one that same size, and that would be the right size. But I just put that little adapter on it, that'll work.
This is something most people don't do. Let me show you one more time. Right now, I'm actually I finally got off the batteries off of my Nady MM242. I swear by those mixers. I have 2 of them, and I love them to death, and I keep seeing bad ratings, and I couldn't understand what was going on. Maybe, I think, a friend of mine, I think he broke his, actually. I think he might have slammed his too hard. I don't know. But most people hate them because they use non-standard DC jacks.
Okay.
And you can't fit, I don't remember what the standard size is. I always forget that number. I don't know if it's 2.5 millimeter, whatever it is. 1.9, I think. I can't remember. They don't use those standard size jacks. The other day, I didn't do it with this one because I've got an adapter that I'm using, but I've got another one over here that I'm not using. And I want to make a video and show this. I changed the DC jack on it. I opened the sucker up, I desoldered the jack that was in there, and I replaced it with one that would fit all of my adapters. And it was, I mean, it's not an easy fix if you don't have a little bit of experience doing this already.
But yeah, but if you do, then what kind of like that gives you so much freedom, you know?
It does. And the other thing is it's taught me, it's given me an education to help me better understand how powering these things works, how, you know, to not be, you know, so in the dark and so, like, you know, wondering if this is going to kill my synthesizers or not. Kind of questions.
Oh yeah,
unfortunately,
and it's funny that people. What's that? Go ahead.
I was going to say, unfortunately, I'm also a little bit dangerous. It's making me want to, like, I've done like crazy experimentations where I could have, you know, destroyed some of my equipment.
Well, yeah, people say bad things about oscilloscopes. I was gonna say, just like, oh yeah, he's got an oscilloscope to just. People think it's just for show or something, but
oh no, yeah,
it's like no, it'd be so. That's like so amazing just to have an oscilloscope, and then you can start to and not even that, but just one of those just a reader. What was that again?
A multimeter.
Multimeter, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've had a multimeter since the 90s, a little pocket one. And, of course, I left the batteries in it, and they, you know, leaked. And what ended up happening is the contacts broke off that formed the leads for the batteries themselves. And I kind of fixed it, actually. It was a very easy fix, but the problem is I couldn't find anything that was suitable for being a spring type kind of thing and having the battery pushed down and it still being able to make a good connection. To this day right now, it doesn't really work that well. But that was one of the first things that I fixed. And I mean, you know, just having that, being able to see like continuity. Let me back up for a second. I can't think of really any situation where you need to do that unless you start to open up a synthesizer. I mean, you can potentially figure out. No, you can't even necessarily figure out if a DC jack is center positive or center negative. You kind of can. I mean, what you can do is you can carefully touch the tip of the DC jack right here, and then maybe not. But you want to test all of the inputs and outputs, but everywhere where this little where the screw is, that should be ground. That should be ground. And if they connect, then it's not center negative. Hope that made sense.
Yeah. But then you'd have to open it up to see, right?
If you're in doubt, the best thing to do is open it up and be able to see like what's going on with the circuit.
And then probably wouldn't say on the website necessarily.
This is something I'm trying. I hope this is not too much of an aside, but this is something I'm trying to fix right now. This is a kit that I bought and it doesn't work. And I'm troubleshooting. I'm actually glad that it doesn't work because it's giving me an opportunity to figure out, you know, what's wrong. Either something I did or something that was wrong with the design of the kit. When you buy these cheap kits, sometimes you get burned. You know, you do everything right, but there's something wrong with the kit. Well, even though there's something wrong, I mean, I can still figure it out. Like if something's routed wrong, you just scratch off where it's not supposed to be connected and make your own connection. It literally is that easy.
So you're dealing with a whole lot of application of a basic thing.
All I'm doing here in this particular case, in order to figure this out. Now I know that it gets power because there's some LEDs and they turn on, but I'm not getting an output signal. So what I do is I just worry about the input signal, and I look on the back, and I follow. Okay, I figure out. Okay, where is the input signal? Which pin is the input signal going to be on? And I follow that trace all the way down, and I got to a point where, like, maybe if you can see. You might be able to see this bit of yellow.
Yeah.
That is a capacitor that I added. These are the 4 capacitors. I went a little extreme. I shouldn't have removed all 4. I should have picked one and just removed it. But the thing was, I didn't know what these things were. And I didn't know I've never used capacitors like this before. They're the kind where, like, you have to, like, bend one of the legs over like that. And turns out these are really high quality capacitors, and I should not have removed them at all. I added one of my own capacitors, and it didn't. I mean, what was happening is the signal hits the capacitor, and then on the other side of the capacitor, it stops. That was the problem. Now that makes you think, oh, it's a bad capacitor, maybe?
Or maybe in the wrong range.
Well, that's getting somewhere. There's something else on the other side that's taking that signal to ground, and I got to figure out what's going on.
But what I meant by the basics, like, I mean, it's a basic thing that is applied very largely. It's basically like, so to, like in this case, for your understanding, as per your understanding, what you have to do is just follow the line.
Right.
Follow the signal path. But there's a lot of signal path there to follow.
There is, but like once you figure out which one it is, it's just the one. It's always just the one between here and here. That's the cool part. The problem is, though, is that once you get to a certain point, there's a whole bunch of stuff over here, and you've got to make sure you understand the full signal path, because there could be something over here now, and that's probably what's happening. Again, I mean, I'm looking at this thing. I've been staring at it for 2 weeks now, you know, trying to figure out what's going on. Like, it's a tube amp. It's a stereo tube amp. And I've got
so have you been tempted to just take off the your capacitor, and put the other ones on?
Well, I'm going to put them back in eventually, but I'm going to right now. I'm not. I'm just going to. I might put the original. Okay, here's the thing. I'm actually glad I took the capacitor out, because if the problem is with one of the resistors, if it's a wrong resistor value that's forming a filter with that capacitor that's filtering out the signal, which is what I think is happening, and then I would have had to remove the capacitor anyways to get that resistor out, because the capacitor physically sits on top of it.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the problem with repair, is that you can say, oh, it's just this one thing I got to fix. But it's like an automobile getting into the engine. Now we got to lift the engine, unfortunately, to get to it, and that's going to cost you $1,000.
Now, when you bend back one of those, do you have to make sure not to touch it ever?
What do you mean by touch it ever?
Or else it might mess with your signal?
Oh, no. I mean, there are some what am I trying to say? Static electricity type kind of sensitive devices.
Yeah, or even like break a device because of something
well,
like that.
you can only brick something that is not just digital, but also has like firmware.
Oh, okay.
So
well,
it's
yeah,
like,
okay, that's different.
Yeah. I mean, like I have digital circuits that I've built that are, you know, they're only digital in the slimmest, you know, like sense of the word itself. I mean, they're barely digital, if you see what I'm saying. They don't have any kind of software running around them, no kind of firmware or anything like that at all. No memory. If you know, like, okay, I'll back that up. They do have, one of them has a shift register, and technically that is memory. But man, it's like 2 bits of memory, you know, and it's constantly, you know, it's not storing it. It's just like shifting it in and out to make that crazy sound that it does.
Yeah, but so you can't make the electricity basically go in the wrong direction or something and just fry it for some reason.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, you can. But the good news is that if something does get fried, you can replace it. Like the things that you can see these little black guys. These are 4 transistors, and I have no idea what these transistors do in the circuit anyways. There's no. I finally found a schematic for the circuit, and so like I'm going to have to sit down and study it and try to figure out what's going on. I'm going to have to go and study a lot of other stuff probably too. But these 4 transistors, I mean, yeah, they're pretty sensitive, and it's easy to like if I was to accidentally route too much current to the base, it would fry it, destroy it forever.
Hey, Inverted Popes, nice to see you here. Sorry, I didn't mention. I saw you there a little while ago. Nice to see you here. Yeah. So,
is there anything that we left out?
I don't think so. We've gone on our fair share of tangents and stuff like that.
I love tangents.
Yeah, as far as pedals go, I don't know. I'm kind of off in space right now. What I'm thinking back to is what you asked me before about aliasing, why I don't like aliasing, or what I understand of it. And I don't understand it at all, really. I haven't gotten into that at all.
Well, you know, okay, that is a bit of what I was. That's great that you mentioned that, because what I was just talking about is kind of how bit crushing works. Is it's a digital signal, and what we're doing is we're just reducing the resolution, and it gets a sound that is harsh, but yet has qualities that some people like, or more importantly, has some qualities that you can make not so harsh and make pleasant.
John Richardson's here too. Nice to see you.
But we all have our I don't want to like our weaknesses or our sensitivities of things that we don't like. Mine is I don't like granular synthesis. Isn't that crazy?
No. But yeah, cool. That's no, that's interesting. No, yeah.
That's why I never got the micro granny, for example. That's a little sampler that I've always been interested in, and I mean, I would love to have one, just because I love devices and gear and technology and so forth. But I never really. I was like, I don't really want to. That's not my style.
Well, that's another thing that can get harsh and stuff too.
Right.
So it's understandable. But maybe it's not for those reasons that you don't like it. But
yeah, it's generally, well, it's a rhythmic thing, and I think because I'm a drummer, I don't like too sporadic rhythms.
Just goes off.
That makes any sense. Like just complete. It's weird. Like the sound of popcorn is okay, for me. Like that's a complete randomness of rhythm in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's consistent.
Yeah. Okay, so I can talk about Platts because you got the Micro Freak.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. Well, what?
Do that.
Yeah, that's great. But there's the particle noise, and that does the if you don't put a trigger in it, well, at least with Platts, if you don't put any trigger into the particle noise, it makes its own random trigger, and just naturally triggers just whenever. So it's just naturally natural, right?
Yes.
It's easy. But another thing though is for clouds, we're talking granular. The density knob is what gives you just more and more repeats of the delay of the sound that you've got frozen, or that goes through it, whether you've got it frozen or not. But okay, so straight up and down, it doesn't give you anything; it's off. But you turn it to the left, and it gives you just exponentially more and more. But if you go to the right, that's an algorithm where it does random. And it just does whatever it wants. But it still gives you more as it goes.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the same way that the particle noise on Platts or the Micro Freak, it gives you more of an instance of it as you turn the knob. There's still random, but then it turns from to like a stream, to a river of them. It's like
oh wow, okay,
so
yeah.
like here. But it's just
Suzanne Solani.
Yeah, so it's just take the effects off of there.
I was going to ask about the effects too, if that was part of the plates, or if you're running that through. I already forgot the name of the
Top,
module.
yeah. But no, this is without effects.
Gorgeous.
But then like that until it's just a cacophony.
Whatsoever.
And I use it like I've been using it behind every single like mastered music track, like it's just behind the music as an extra texture, instead of doing like a lo-fi vinyl scratch, which I don't like that type of thing. I don't like lo-fiing my stuff, but adding something like that is cool.
When it's appropriate. I like it when it's appropriate. Which it's kind of, like I was going to say before, I don't really think that there's any bad guitar pedal out there. Because like with everything that's bad, I mean, you can do something good with it. The question is like how many good things can you do with it? And how often do you want to spend the time discovering something with it?
Yeah.
And it's It's pretty crazy. And I mean, a lot of this, I think, does become a little bit, I hate to use the word vanity, but with guitar pedals, it's a lot easier to use the word vanity.
No, vanity's perfect. That's how I think of it a lot.
Like how things look, like
Yeah.
the pedals that are gorgeous to me are the ones that like really, really, really stand out. There is one pedal, some of these things, like, okay, like for example,
Like the hypnosis.
here's something if you can get your hands on. I showed you this one before
Uh-huh.
already.
Yeah.
I paid $30 for this thing, and this is a 10-band equalizer with nice sliders.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I couldn't build this for under $30. Sliding potentiometers are not cheap. I mean, each one, these are probably $2 a piece, and there's 11 of them. I think it's 10, and then it's got a gain, so that's already $22. And then the case, these cases are like, $7 to $10 to $20 sometimes.
They sure used all the real estate too.
Yeah. And the back of it's pretty simple. There's some, it's all SMD on the back of it, but it's all analog. But this is something that I think would be a bit beneficial for keyboard players, because if you don't have a big mixer, this can definitely. The other issue though is that it's mono in, mono out. So you can destroy your stereo signal if you're not careful, if that's what you're wanting to preserve the most.
Yeah.
And that brings me to, of course, I was almost going to forget. I can't reach them. Hang on one second. Or the my favorite. You know what? Yeah, and you know which ones I'm going to pull out here. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
These are just the best. Hang on, let me get my headphones back in so I can hear you talk. They are. You can get these used for maybe $50 on Reverb. They're kind of hard to find a little bit, and they're kind of cheap, kind of cheapy, whatnot. What's very interesting about them is that even though one is for bass and one is for guitar, and I'll explain what the difference is in a second, you can change the algorithms on these things. You can make one a G1 on. You can swap them out essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the ones that have the expression pedals built into them. I have one of those as well, and they have a few other. They have a few virtual pedals that are not available in these, but you have to have an expression pedal, and these don't have inputs for expression pedals themselves. But what's so great about these guys for synthesizer players is they're mono in, stereo out. Now you know about the CDR Stomp, the Zoom CDR, the silver one and the blue one. If you need stereo in, get one of those, but you're going to pay twice as much for it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I think they have side mounting jacks as well. These have top mounting jacks.
Yeah, so if it's just for one instrument, like I say I wanted to use that for my mono station, that would be the perfect one.
Yes. I don't know. I bought these because they were cheaper. I just bought them because they were cheaper, and I never had a reason to buy one of the CDR versions. I just didn't. But they're great. They're actually better than these because these can stack 5 pedals. I think those can stack 6 or 7. I think, and they have a few more. And what's really great about these is that they will allow you to learn about chaining pedals, what works well and what doesn't work, because you've got a whole bunch of distortions, overdrives. The fuzzes are kind of stupid in this pedal. Really, in my opinion, any digital fuzz is kind of silly. It's kind of a gimmick. I can explain a little bit about that if you want to, if you just take my word for it, But fuzzes really are a circuit that really deserves to be analog, and it's because of impedance. Because fuzz circuits are current sources.
Yeah.
And that means that you really want to turn the volume on your guitar low, or the volume on your synthesizer very, very, very low. It's the opposite of the intuition you would think to do with gain staging. And this actually allows the fuzz pedal to sound a whole lot better. Just just to put it up and wrap it up in a nutshell. But,
that's one of those things you wouldn't think so, because you'd think distortion means you have to overdrive it to get the fuzz.
Yes.
And that's not fuzz. Yeah.
But like with overdrive and distortion, you do want your regular kind of hit it hard kind of.
But that's why fuzz is different, right?
Yeah, it really is, and I think this is why a lot of people say I don't like fuzz, and it's because they don't I went over to a friend, my friend's house, and he's a bass player. He's been playing bass for 40 years. His son has been playing guitar, and I was showing him some of these fuzz pedals, and I showed him like turning the volume down, and his eyes got this big around. He had never seen that before. So I was kind of shocked too, because I'm like, wow, okay, well, thank you, YouTube. You know, that's the internet age for you right there. But yeah, so you can stack your pedals together, so you can get like you can get a noise gate to cut back, because like what's funny is that this uses amp modeling, so you're going to get a lot of that noise that the guitar players love, which is something that I would like to, you know, there is that inherent noise that comes with the distortion and the amps and all that kind of that, you know, and it's just dry. You're like, what? Why do you want that in there? You know, it's part of the magic somehow. But you want to use a noise gate so that when there's no signal coming in, you don't hear that noise.
Right.
And that when there is signal coming, it's masking the noise. You don't really notice it. It's a, you know, you got to play around with it. It's an art form. So you get like a noise gate, and then you get like a distortion, and then a compressor, and then that keeps the distortion from getting too much, essentially. And then you can add like a delay and a reverb, or a nice stereo chorus, or a stereo delay. And so I keep telling people, like, people keep complaining all the time about, when I say mono synths now, I mean you know, mono outputs, not stereo.
Mm-hmm.
And they want, you know, the effects. I got to have my effects. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you can use these on any number of your synthesizers, your pocket operators, your Volcas, your Monologue, whatever. And
Yeah, and they have the jacks on the top.
And they got jacks on top, and you want two. Trust me, you want two, because you're going to want to have different effects on your different synthesizers.
Mm-hmm.
And another trick I learned with these for performance-wise is that you could set up a blank dummy effect, didn't matter which one it was, and then take the volume all the way to 0. And that way you could use this as a mute. Right? So you could just like mute whatever track is playing. And if you see some of my old videos, I do that all the time. I was doing all kinds of tricks with these pedals.
That's a neat little hack.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And they've got loopers inside of them. One track looper, but it overdubs. And you can hear it, like the sound start to degrade and get softer and softer as you add more layers to it, you know?
Okay, that's cool. That's yeah.
They're great pedals. They really are.
Yeah, and then since they have basically a plethora of the Zoom, they have, you know, basically the package of Zoom effects that they say is for guitar and say is for bass, but really there's just so many effects that it's for everything.
Yes,
right?
And I think for synthesizer players, I recommend the bass over the guitar, because the bass one has a limiter in it. Like, I don't know why, but the bass has a limiter, the guitar doesn't. It's a compressor that is specifically a limiter, and that is great for things like the vocal bass and the vocal
That makes
kick.
sense, because it seems like lately the bass lines I've been using. And I didn't even, on this last track I released, I don't think I even got a low cut on it like I wanted to. And because of that, my parents' soundbar is way bass heavy. For TV and everything, they need to fix it. But still, I still felt kind of like ashamed at how it came through on their TV. I'm like, oh no! Because the bass is just like...
Yeah, you need a couple, 2 or 3 references before you can really determine, you know... If it's, it could just be your parents' bar, really.
Yeah, it mostly was.
But that's what mastering does. That's what mastering is supposed to do.
Yeah.
For us, is make things even across the pun intended bar. Sorry.
But that's the importance of a limiter, though.
Yeah.
And EQ. Well, that's mostly EQ actually, though. But yeah, still same thing with a limiter.
Yeah, that is a lot of EQ, but I mean, it all adds together. It really does. I'm having a hard time with the bass in my mixes. I'm still having a hard time getting like my bass drums to cut through. But I mean, I'm not doing a lot of A/B testing with a lot of different speakers and headphones either. And I kind of don't really care.
And you're doing side chaining, right? But no, you can't side chain everything from all the other devices off onto the bass. Except you can with the what?
I have the ability to do side chaining, but I'm not currently doing it. I've been very lazy this winter. I need to get off my butt and fix a lot of my gear down here. So like these compressors that I bought, I mean, I got them for dirt cheap. These rack-mounted compressors. I just got to fix them up a little bit. And I've got 2 stereo compressors with side chain.
Yeah.
And I want to send my whole drum mix through one of those, and then I want to send the entire mix through the other one, and maybe have the vocal kick as the as the input to the sidechain.
Yeah.
I don't really like that sound though, with the ducking compression on the bass drum.
Uh-huh.
I
But
don't,
maybe just a tiny bit where you didn't even maybe notice it,
Well-
but it comes through, or
DJ Coherence.
uh-huh.
Man, that man is a class act. When you watch his stream, here's what he does. He has his music routed through a compressor, and his vocals are acting as a sidechain, like a real DJ, like a real radio disc jockey. And so, anytime he wants to converse with the chat, the music ducks down, you hear his voice coming through clearly. But when he records it for himself, he records all of the music directly without his voice.
Yeah.
It's the best of both worlds right there. I mean, I can't do this separate. For me, what I record, what you hear is what I'm also recording. So I would have to reroute a few things to make that happen. But I think I can eventually get to where I'm doing that as well. It's really, really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I gotta change. That's the spot where I'm at. Is with Twitch. I gotta change my OBS setting to. It has a thing where, at least OBS Studio, which I'm using, does, where it says save the audio, save another audio track of the audio for your VOD later. So, since they mute the VOD afterwards sometimes, then you still have that whole show you did, and a recording of it for yourself, at least on audio. And that would be great.
That would not get me out of that situation. Though. I've actually got to send two different, two different audio streams.
Yeah, you have to send it to different places. That's a different,
and I may need, require this in order for that to happen.
Yeah, no, that's why I've been brainstorming. How do I do that on this? Nope, can't. That's the whole problem with this, is it's one signal path for everything in the end, even though there's so many ins, and then there's multiple outs, but they're all connected in the middle by one signal path.
Yeah, I mean, I might need another computer to do, what DJ Coherence is doing. I don't know. There may be a way around that, but I mean, my computer's really limited. I mean, it's
but a mixer can do that with.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
You just gotta, or a patch bay.
Well,
we've gone 2 hours now. I think that's a good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely. I've got to go take care of some business, unfortunately.
All right. Cool. Well, I'll let you go take care of some business. Thanks for.
Yeah. Any questions you got for me though
again.
before we go? Did we leave anything off? Anything that you left, you want before we go? Before you, if you
I'm not sure.
dive off. I mean, I still think you should get the Ocean's 11 if you want a reverb pedal. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I knew about the Ocean's 11 and then the Ocean 12.
I'm sorry, 12. The Ocean 12.
The Ocean's 12 came out.
Yeah.
Wasn't there an Ocean's 11 before that by Electro Harmonics?
I think so, and I hate when they do that. Cattle and Bread kind of did the same thing with the Bell Epoch. They have the regular version, but then they have the deluxe version. And I'm like, and it's kind of tough. Really, honestly, I think with the Bell Epoch Deluxe is over $300, and the regular one is about $200. The Ocean's 11 is a little bit over $100, whereas the Ocean's 12 is a little bit under $200. Electro Harmonics, they can produce a lot more stuff than Cattle and Bread can. Cattle and Bread stuff is wow. It's really intense when you look on the inside. They got a lot going on in there. Really, I think that in this particular case, the Ocean's 12, you'd get that if you just want just a little bit of that shimmer reverb, a little bit of that goodness that it does.
Yeah, so I put it on the screen just now. I took a screenshot of that before we went on stream, and we were talking about that earlier. And I really like the way it's set up to where it actually says on the face of it which what those two modulation knobs do.
Yeah, it is a really cool pedal. I love it to death. It is becoming one of my favorite reverbs by far, because what you have is you've got Reverb A or Reverb B by themselves. That's almost what an Ocean's 11 is going to get you. Almost. You still get a whole lot more features, but now you've got the ability to send Reverb A into Reverb B, and you can. I've got doubled up shimmer reverb going on right there alone.
Yeah.
and it's got like a lot of great. It's all DSP. This is probably a device where you could potentially brick it, but I don't think they have any way to update the firmware. So no, you couldn't brick this thing.
Mm.
Well, no, it could probably be bricked anyways, though.
Well, I don't know. Does that happen very often anyway?
No, it would be a horrible thing if something like that happened. But because it's so DSP reliant, just even though you don't have the ability to update the firmware, something bad could cause like the same thing essentially to happen, to where like the system couldn't talk to itself. It would just be bricked.
Some friends I've talked to who do put together module kits, or like have digital modules, have had that issue with digital modules of the Eurorack modules.
Probably Arduino based or TNC based. That
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I love Arduino.
The Arduino based one. Yeah.
Well, the only reservation about the pedal that you showed me was when I looked up the Reverb history of the price. And and again, there is a way, actually. What you can do, you can go to Reverb and do a search for that pedal. Reverb's a little weird with their searches. They give you search suggestions, which take you to specific product pages, and you don't want to do that. You want to do just a regular text search, and then you can select sold, show me only sold items, and then you can change the order to most recent, and then you see what recently sold.
Oh, I've never tried. I never thought about doing that.
I just figured this out yesterday. How long have I been doing this on Reverb, and I only figured that out yesterday. I'm like, oh, you can see sold listings, and that right there will help you immensely determine when to pull the trigger.
Yeah. No, see, I'm already like a Reverb. That's like it's my newspaper. It's like what I use to always be up on what's out there and who wants it and how much, and and same thing with all the old vintage stuff that's thousands and thousands, and I was trying to keep my eye on
the volume
that.
of pedals is so much more than synthesizers. It's maybe not as much as modular, but it is more than modular. Modular's pretty. There's a lot of traffic going through.
Yeah, it seems like people are really up on if there's a cool pedal that it doesn't last long.
I've seen pedals go like that, just boom, 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 boom. One time I saw one, I was like, oh, and I snagged it before anybody else did, and that guy messaged me back. He was like, wow, that was fast. And I didn't really want to say anything. I was like, well, you kind of listed it kind of low.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily, I think there's so many good pedals that always are coming out new that that's kind of what I'm looking at mostly anyway. I like the idea of the new Fender ones, because they have they will show you on the LED the value of each knob, which is cool.
They have one called the Pinwheel, and I would buy it just because I love Dark Souls so much. I'm not going to do that. I am not doing that, because it has nothing to do with the Boss Pinwheel whatsoever.
Yeah, it's vanity. But, pedals are kind of vanity.
One last vanity pedal before we go. Now, this is I didn't buy it just for the base reason, and it does have this little scratch back here. And by the way, I put always put these little protective plastic rubber feet.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't scratch the back. All right, you ready for this?
Oh, Uber Haze. That's
and
cool.
It's a Univibe clone, which is the old one of the old vibro effects. Like it goes wah 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 wah. And it almost is like an ensemble, but it's not stereo. It's mono.
So that's your gaming name then, huh?
And that is a pedal though. That pedal really is designed for guitar players, because it has like 2 expression contact points, if you will, and everything that I'll probably never use.
Okay. Yeah.
But hey, I had to get it, man. Are you kidding me? I had to get that one, and it's discontinued as well. It's very rare, very rare.
Oh, there you go.
I couldn't help it. I had to get it. What was it we say? If we have to, we'll just if we have only one kidney left and we have to, we can sell.
Yeah, but oh no, if you want to sell that, no, I just got this idea. Like if you signed that, Haze Anderson, and then you'd be like, sell it as like Uber Haze signed by Haze Anderson. And they'll
might
be
do
like,
that,
I don't
yeah.
know what that means, but whoa, I better get that, even though it's $15,000 because it's discontinued.
Of course, we'll never go if we don't say goodbye. But you know who Synth Junkie is, of course. And like he recently sold all of his gear on Reverb.
Yeah.
And I was tempted to buy one of his guitar pedals because it wasn't priced terribly high, you know. But I decided in the end not to.
Yeah, his stuff was reasonably priced. I
Yeah,
looked at
yeah.
I looked at a lot of that.
And Dweezil Zappa recently had a bunch of his gear up for sale on Reverb. And I thought about buying a couple of those, but you know, it's like, I looked at most of it, and it was just kind of like, it literally said, most likely unplayed by Dweezil. Like, most likely not even taken out of the box. You know, so it was a lot of good gear, like if you wanted to get new out of box type kind of stuff, you know. And it was, of course, you get a certificate that says, but this is one of the issues that I have, you know, is that I mean, I don't have any contention with pedal flippers at all. But yeah, like when you do see something like a cheap pedal going, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's going to a pedal flipper. I have seen, I've watched pedals, and it's the exact same, because like you can see the little birthmarks on them. You know what I mean? The little scratch here, little scratch there, and yeah, like these people will, then they'll stick them back up with at an inflated price, and they'll just sit on them, and they'll like wait for somebody to buy it.
Yeah.
Can't blame them, but
yeah. Reverb
to
has
me,
that sort of room to
yes.
to make some money, and that's it's a good thing.
So when I see someone like, you know, like selling a pedal, and you're like, I mean, you feel kind of bad. You're like, oh, I'm selling this because I need the money, you know. And I always feel bad, you know, but at the same time I'm saying, okay, well, it's going to a good home if I buy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have a bunch of toys. I mean, like the Converter Plus that I showed you. You know, I kind of got from the messaging, the person that sold it, like, you know, they didn't have a use for it. I've got tons of uses for this pedal, and I'm so glad that I bought it and not somebody who just wants to flip it for $50.
Yeah. Hey, howdy doodle dude, Jim2711. We're about to wrap up here, but I'm glad you came anyway.
Yeah, we've been
cool.
yapping for a long time.
But you said like that it just sold for $40, that one. And so some people use Reverb. Like I could see myself using Reverb to sell something for just a crazy price just to get rid of it.
That too. And you don't know, like if you just see $40, you don't know what the condition is either.
That's true. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, and I mean it could have been sold for parts is the other thing. So I think it's pretty important, like if you do what I said before and like see all the sold listings. That way you can see what actually sold.
Yeah.
And you'll know, okay, that's why it was $40.
That way I'll know what's hot too right now.
Right. Now, if you look at it, it's like $40. And it was a really good looking one. You'd be like, man, I could probably wait, and one that cost $80 might come by within the next 3 weeks. And, you know, give yourself some time, because that's the other thing. Like, you know, like I said before, whenever you buy a pedal, you know, I get this pedal. I mean, and I get a really good price on it. The next day, somebody's going to list one for cheaper. And they wouldn't have listed it if I didn't buy it either. What I'm trying to say is, you know, like, be ready for that.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to,
Yeah, I look at you wait too long sometimes, it starts to creep up, and it's like, oh my gosh. It's like the stock market.
but things work the other way too. When I bought this pedal, this pedal showed up I bought this pedal arrived in 2 days when I bought it. 2 days it showed up after I bought it. And the next day that I bought it, somebody listed theirs for about maybe $20 cheaper than what I paid for that one. But you know what? I still would be waiting for that pedal right now if I bought that one. Now, that's okay though. I'm in no hurry, but like, you know, there are some shops on Reverb where, like, you know that they're gonna. I mean, they are an actual guitar shop or a music store.
Yeah.
And there's some good ones out there. There's some ones who are like, yeah, you know, they're okay. They just want to make a buck. But there are others that are like really good. They're really cool.
Most of what I bought from Reverb has been actually from stores, either Perfect Circuit or 3-Wave, but I get them through Reverb.
If you go through Perfect Circuit, always wait until they have a sale, and you can always get 10% off.
Yeah, I get B stock and stuff like that.
And
they put them on there.
Even though they're B stock, you can still do 10% off. Like I got my second TT303, the black one. I got it for $250, brand new. I think it was $255, and they don't charge tax, I don't think. sales tax. That may change. I don't know. We'll see. But Reverb is all sales tax now, unfortunately. There are a few shops where it's weird. Read the description carefully. Because like one shop that I saw, they said, "Hey, go to my page on Reverb, click on this link, and you won't have to pay sales tax." I'm an authorized dealer.
It's totally legal. Yeah.
And no, it was. It really was. And it's. But you, I mean, the government doesn't want you to know. Right? And you can save a little bit of money that way. But that was the only one time. And I haven't really seen anybody else do that. I've looked around to see if I can get around paying the tax. Trust me, because why would you want to?
Right.
Well, yeah, no, I don't want to pay sales tax. Not on this stuff. It doesn't seem. It's like it's coming across the state lines, anyways. Right? Are you kidding me? And it's a second-hand item. I don't want to get political. I'll shut up.
Well, yeah. So, long story short, everybody just go out and start looking at pedals and get on the excitement wave.
And,
yeah.
Don't blame me. Don't blame me.
And blame Haze. Blame Uber Haze. I'm going to call you Uber Haze from now on. No, I'm just joking.
Well, yeah. I mean, apart from it would make me sound egotistical. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind that. I think it'd be kind of funny.
That's awesome.
Hey, thanks for having me on once again. I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, no problem.
Are you going to? Are you thinking about switching to Friday?
Yes. Thanks for reminding me, and I did remember about that minutes ago and forgot about it again. Thanks. But yeah, actually, that's the thing is I'm finding it. See, I've been distance learning with my kid. And teaching them kindergarten myself and going through the day with them every day myself, Monday through Friday, during the day, and then going to work later in the afternoon. But now she's actually back in kindergarten in the building. And so I have all this time on my hands on the weekdays and more of an incentive to spend time with my family as much as I can on the weekends. And so, yeah. Friday is going to be perfect now, and actually it could be a little bit earlier. So I found that at least with guests I've been bringing on, you guys are in time zones that might work a little better earlier. But yeah, if anybody has opinions about that, drop me a line in Discord, and we'll see what time of day will be good on that. I'll just want to pick something and then get it consistent from there. But yeah, Fridays. So yeah, I hope you can make it for the next one, and and we might have Lisa on, and maybe some more people. I have definitely some people lined up that I haven't talked to yet, but today would be the day. A week ahead of time, at least, would probably be good for most people. I've found out is better, right?
Yeah, probably. Oh hey, when's the show on? 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go buy a webcam.
We went 2 hours and 18 minutes this time. That's awesome. That's about
awesome.
right.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for coming around. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye, everybody.